So this is me from Denmark, and I thought we would look into in regards of the birth of the sun god Sol Invictus, which apparently is Mithra. And I've been looking into some sources, and I thought, why not just do it on live? I have the possibility of doing it, and let's go. So let's close this down so it's a little quicker, and go to my Facebook, and let's have this way. I was sitting there and reading anyway, so let's just see some of the sources that is out there, and we might be reading some other things and whatever, just a little digging here and there, right? So of course we are in the blessed day of the week, and the day of rest, where we should all take a rest and not buy anything or sell anything, and pretty much here is one of the sources in regards of COG writer, would probably be better to say it like that. COG writer has a lot of good information, but I think they believe in what do we call it? Instead of the Trinity, so that's an issue, But you can always find, but these are one of the ones that actually keeps the Sabbath. And again, in the past, many years ago, I found a Wikipedia page where you had all the nominations that actually kept the Sabbath, and that was just gold information, because when you have a nomination that actually keeps the Sabbath, they tend to be more serious in regards of the Word of God, and they have a lot of goodies. Of course, you have to always be careful and be able to discern things. But anyway, so it opened up to a lot of good sources. We have, we don't need to read that. But that was in regards to Mithra and all that. As I understand it, Mithra was a religion that was growing up with Christianity at the same time. And of course, as I understand it, we actually have lost a lot of documents in regards of Mithra and all that. But it might actually just have merged with Roman Catholicism and all that. In regards of Christ Mass, for example, I remember reading sources about the pagans coming into, being forced into the Roman Catholic Church and all that. So they were not really Christians, but they, only in name in some sense. And of course taking traditions with them, and apparently also changing. Now, of course, we see that people will say, no, Christ Mass is nothing in regards of paganism and all that. So let's see what, Pope John Paul II says. It would be nice to verify the source, of course. This is from a Spanish source, it seems. It says, so it causes so much commotion and distress, the statement of the hierarchy as simply as that performed by Pope John Paul II. And they apparently love that Paul name and all that. Maybe because Paul was actually the first, first in the line. But anyway, that's my view on it anyway. They say it was Peter that was the creator of the Roman Catholic Church. If anything, it would be Paulus. But of course, you have to remember that it merged with the mystery religion of Rome. So it's still the old pagan mystery religion of Rome. It hasn't really changed besides putting on sheep clothing. Anyway, it's still the wicked whore of Revelation. A pagan whore. So it causes so much commotion and distress, the statement of hierarchy as simply as that performed by Pope John Paul II on December the 21st, 1993, when he acknowledged, so this is the Roman emperor, the Roman king, the Roman Caesar. He says when he acknowledged that Christ, that he's the Antichrist. He's the Antichrist of the number 666. But anyway, when he acknowledged that Christmas Day replaced the pagan festival of the invincible sun. The invincible sun. So who is the invincible sun? That's Sol Invictus. And who is Sol Invictus? That's apparently Mithra. So when you see one name, you can pretty much, it's Mithra. It seems like there might be other names that you actually can connect to this date of 25 December and all that. But anyway, here we have from the Roman king at least, and usually these in our days, usually they are pretty educated. Those put in the position of the Antichrist. Anyway, when the festival of the invincible sun, which coincided with the solstice winter, the media news were echo of that, and we can easily locate it anywhere in hemeroteca. And I think it seems it is a Spanish word of newspaper library or National Library of Spain. I think most likely in regards to a newspaper library. I'm not sure why they would use a Spanish word. Besides, maybe me being, from Spain or something like that. And the source is in antiquitatem.com. Mithraism, Christianity, winter solstice. And apparently it seems like Facebook is breaking the link. I don't understand. Sometimes the links breaks when so you need to delete all these things, which is not in the URL in the first place. And you need to push, and there you go. And as you can see, I guess that seems to be in regards of the Roman tradition of how, the two guys began in regards of, and I think the one killed the other at some point or something like that. But in regards of surviving on a wolf, giving them, breastfeeding them and so forward. Yeah, whatever. But of course, what is interesting with this website is in regards of About Us, and we can go in regards of About Us, in regards of checking what source is this actually. And maybe I should turn the mobile around. So we can also see in regards to Spain. So it seems like it's a Spain and an English site. So what does it say? About Us. Antiquitatem is a result of the combined effort of an old professor of Latin who has always been in love with the old world, a young computer engineer and a telecommunication engineer in the role of a willful English translator. And so forward and so forward. Antonio Marco Martinez, born in January 1949, of a professor of Latin at various high schools. He's now retired and has enough time to reread the Greek and Latin classics, review their history and culture, and extract information that has a direct relevance to the present. So he seems to be pretty, an old guy, that has studied a lot. Maybe we should just turn it back to this direction. But so this is from his. He has all other sources. So we have Mithra. He says. So this is the article. Nihil novum sub sole or something like that. That's Latin, I guess. 1001 deeds, saying, curiosities and anecdotes of the ancient world. Culture, gods and religion, habits, historical archaeology, language and literature, and mythology. Mithra, god of the sun, was born on December 25, day of the winter solstice. And actually you can write to him if you log into his page. So, that might be a thing, try to ask him of more sources maybe in regards of Mithra being connected to the 25th of December. But of course we already have one source in regards of the Antichrist saying it. But anyway, on the night of 24 to 25 December, it is celebrated in the West, the birth of Christ. But it was not always so, and today it is not in the whole Christian world. Until the 4th century, it was celebrated on January the 6th, and it continues so in the East and among the Orthodox. Now, I don't know in regards to that tradition either, the January 6th and all that. where that came from and so forward. Again, it's not found in the Torah, so, Anyway, the winter solstice occurs on December 25th. It is the time when in the northern hemisphere, the days are shorter and the nights are longest. But from this moment, the days begins to grow, and Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of the unconquered sun, is celebrated on this day. So Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of the unconquered sun, is celebrated on this day. And who is that? That's Mithra. That invincible sun is the god Mithra, whose worship and devotion competed with Christianity, with which has certain similarities. And he says, I've dedicated an article to this issue in this blog. So we can just look at that short thing here. I will not go into in regards to, I think he thinks that they have miscalculated in regards of when the year and all that. But anyway, what we are interested in is, of course, the December 25 and all that. So it goes on here. Yet celebrating Christ's birthday on December the 25th is another mistake. At first it was held on January the 6th, and it actually continues to be commemorated on that date in the Eastern Church. Now again, I don't know where they get the January 6th date either. Again, if that's also just one of these vanity traditions. Again, it's not found in the Bible, to be commanded. So what happened was that, as in many other occasions, do we see that? What happened was that, as in many, the paganism is slipping into the church or into the congregations. But anyway, what happened was that in many other occasions, as in many other occasions, a prior celebration was Christianized. Oh, really? So what was the celebration that was Christianized? The day of the unconquered sun, that would be Sol Invictus, which was, and that would be Mithra, which was celebrated on December the 25, the winter solstice, when the sun, as newborn, begins to lengthen the day and decrease the night. So such a date is noteworthy each year because the winter solstice is the precise date when the newborn sun arises and days begin to lengthen as a result of increasing sunlight. And again, the pagans know the pagans have no problem celebrating Christ Mass or Yule, or they call it other things and all that. I found other names, but I can't remember what they are. But anyway, they know it's related to paganism. So when you see people coming up and defending Christ Mass and saying it's not pagan and it doesn't have any roots in regards of paganism and all that, I have to say it's bullshit. Everything is paganism in regards of Christ Mass. Look around you. Just look around you. It's all over. Anyway, you have to be literally blind to not see it, I think. So I also spent another comment in some aspect of ritual and celebration of our Christ Mass, including the episode called The Three Kings. So I have two others. Apparently a little tight here. So we have two others, but let's continue with these. So Mithraism and Christianity have many similarities and many differences. This is demonstrated by some Christian parents and polemicists, I guess, some that actually defend Christianity or something like that, who curiously give us often many details of these secret or semi-secret religions of salvation. Otherwise, Christianity also takes elements from religion and worship of Isis and Osiris, Tammuz, Adonis, Attis, and Dionysus. Otherwise, Christianity, not sure how that, but anyway, in regards to Roman Catholicism, Anyway, To explain the coexistence of similarities and differences, we must imagine the spiritual and religious environment of imperial Rome, in which there are all religions and rites with which they are encountered in their imperial progress, and also the popular atmosphere is very conducive to the development of religions and inimical to atheistic positions. Wow, and I guess the atheist would be the Christians. But that's a lot of big words here. I'm not entirely sure I'm understanding that correctly. But anyway, reference may be able the current environment of some American cities where all kinds of religions and mixture of rites and various idea emerges. Note syncretism is called the phenomenon of mixing, assimilation, fusion of diverse elements into one. The words comes from the Greek. That's going to be sick. I can't even. I can't even. But he says syncretismos, consisting of zine prefix sin, we're together at once, and perhaps the karanimi, okay, I got it correctly, verb meaning to mix, or maybe as Plutarch explains in his Moralia on brotherly love, the Amora Fractano 19 relates to Crete and its practice of joining all Cretans against the common enemy. This is an interesting etymology. I will try in an exclusive article. So it goes on. Mithra is a Persian god at least 4,000 years old. Its existence has to be before the separation of Hindus and Persians. Because this god exists in the Vedic pantheon, and as I understand, pantheon is like a pantheon of gods and all that. And it's interesting that I saw a Christian source use that pantheon word for regards to Roman Catholicism. Of India, and exist in the Medo-Persian religion. When developing a different evolution in India, he was accentuated in Persia, and he was prominent in the mysteries of Roman times. His primitive holy book is the Avesta. It is a characteristic of this religion the existence of an absolute dualism. There were two opposing gods, Ahura Mazda, the god of good and heaven, and Ahriman, god of darkness and hell. In between there is a mediator, Mithra, benefactor and protector of men. The Mithra of Persia is so that's the thing in regards of if Roman Catholicism just adopted a lot of these things, that of course would be close to the truth, right? Yet not being the truth, and yet being a fake thing. But anyway, the Mithra of Persia is many centuries later spread throughout the Roman Empire. First accompanying the Roman legions, also led by officials and merchants among those members, will quickly settled. But to get here, it underwent many changes and contamination. First, the original Persian religion and primitive rites were reformed by Zoroaster, whom the Greeks called Zoroaster, leading to Zoroastrianism. It was very also affected by the religion of Babylon and the various people of Mesopotamia, and impregnated with astrology, and we're told to keep away from that bullshit. It is also spread throughout Asia Minor. It came into contact with Jews and other Semitic peoples that it influenced, and in turn it was affected by Greek philosophy, taking Hellenic form, and so on. In many cases, the gods were identified with Asian or Greek gods, or Mast or Ahura Mazda with Zeus or Zeus, Hades with Ahriman, and so on. Mithra remains as such because he has no equivalent in the Greek pantheon. And again, in regards to the pantheon, there's all the different gods of theirs and so forward. It's interesting to see actually that the word pantheon would still be used in regards to Roman Catholicism, right? When you see it used in regards of the Roman gods and the Greek gods and all that. Anyway, that is Masteism, is also an example of syncretismus. So Mithraism spread throughout the empire in the early centuries of the empire, accompanying especially the soldiers. So I guess it's beginning to spread in the empire at the same time as Christianity, around the same time. Precisely the religious life of the devotee of Mithras is conceived as a militia and way of perfection. It is no wonder that it had remarkable success among the legionaries. An essential factor, of course, was the favor of the emperors. And again, if Constantine was the pagan high priest of Pontifex Maximus in regards of Sol Invictus, well, who was he actually? Well, he was the high pagan priest of Mithra, and again leading back to the sun worship, not in regards of the in regards of the sun on the sky, Anyway, so the pagan sun, not the real sun. So it's really a problematic thing in English that you have two words that is so close together. Maybe one could try to differentiate like sun, soon, sun. And sun, sun like you, like sun, and then sun. I don't know, that would probably not work, but it would be nice if you had some variations, where people actually, instead of, but I guess every language have its issues. It is no wonder that it had remarkable success among the legionaries. And an essential factor, of course, was the favor of the emperors, whose tendencies to deification and justification of power by divinity grew stronger. The Oriental Mithraic belief. Testing the extension and development of this cult, it is, for example, the existence of many kings of the area called Mithridates, Pontus, Parthia, Cappadocia, Armenia. The Mithraea, or temples of Mithra, appear throughout the empire, particularly associated with the Roman legions camps. In Rome, there were several, perhaps the greatest is under the Church of San Clemente near the Colosseum. Mithraism disappeared, but their belief into two antagonistic powers that dominated the universe, good and evil, light and darkness, remained in Manichaeism and other beliefs as Bocomilism in the Cathars or Albigensians. Now, I would be careful in regards to this information, in regards to the Cathars or Albigensians, because if I remember, they might actually have been real Christians. So, but, Rome has rewritten history and all that. So, it's like the Waldensians as well. They want to slander these groups as, heretics. And the funny thing, even if these people were heretics, it doesn't make it any better that the Roman Catholic Church went out and slaughtered these people, does it? No. So, but we know that the Waldensians was Christians, and they, and I think also the Albigensians as well. But again, and probably the Cathars, I can't remember what, that was something in regards to that. So just be aware, because the Roman Catholic institution have a way of rewriting history to their own purpose. So, and for example, when you see Dave Hunt, he actually defends this slander against these groups. I think it's both the Albigensians and the Waldensians, with whatever information we have left from these groups that Rome hasn't been able to destroy. So Dave Hunt refute that very quickly when the Roman Catholic comes up with that. But even if the Waldensians, let's say they were heretics, does that condone going out and murdering them? Does it make it okay just because they're heretics, to murder them? It's bullshit. It's utter bullshit, and this whole is drunken by the blood of the saints, and have persecuted them throughout the centuries. So I would be careful of that information, and I think the Cathars, I can't remember all the information. I think that was something in regards to the Cathars also being Christians, but don't hold me on that. I might be wrong, but I think that was something in regards to my memory. Seems to go in that direction. So just be careful. There's a lot of bullshit out there, and there's a lot of disinformation from this institution, and it has a lot of followers, and it has a lot of clever people that works for this deceptive bullshit system. So even the Zoroastrianism still occurs in the small community of Parsis, ancient Parthians who migrated to the India. See something, exposure of corpse burial, cremation. Anyway, between Mithraism and Christianity, there are great similarities in the doctrinal aspect and in the ritual, and consequently there was a strong rivalry which triumphantly came out Christianity from the 4th century. But as at the time of the French philologist, philosopher, and writer Renan 1823 to 1892 said in his book Marcus Aurelius 579, if Christianity had been checked in its growth by some deadly disease, the world would have become Mithraic. So this is, I guess, just one of these pointers that the Mithra religion was apparently very, prevalent, or it was apparently a pretty, and you had to wonder, how could that die out? Well, if the people, in regards to Mithra, was forced into Roman Catholicism, and that Roman Catholicism just fixed some, the celebration of Christmas being the birth of Mithra and all that, that would of course make it a lot easier to get these people into this religion. So you actually, you have a pagan religion overall, which is actually headed by Constantine, who is what? Well, Constantine was the high pagan priest of Mithra, of Sol Invictus. You see how the pieces gets together and makes total sense, I think. So when you look at the Antichrist being shown on TV the 24th of December, around 24, 25, I don't know how long it goes on, an hour maybe, in regards of seeing the Antichrist from directly from the Vatican doing all his abominations and all that, but in any case, the little cookie Jesus, as they call it, that they believe that becomes, the flesh and sinews and soul and blood and all that of Jesus and all that, which is utter bullshit. But anyway, it looks like a sun. And what do they do with that? They put it in a monstrance which have sun rays around. So now you have something looking like the sun, with sun rays on the day of the birth of the sun. In regards of the pagan bullshit and all that, does it have to be more obvious? The same thing with Sunday we have in regards to the Greece, where, let us not, Judaize, and let us not keep the Jewish Sabbath and all that. We want to keep the first day of the week in regards of Sunday, in regards that is in regards of Sol Invictus. And who is Sol Invictus? That's Mithra. And what are the Christians keeping today? They're keeping Sunday. They're going to the church on Sunday, which is the first day of the week. And many don't even know in Denmark that Sunday is that they think it's the last day of the week. You see how Satan have deceived us on so many levels? Anyway, let's go forward. It is impossible to make a detailed study of the multiple similarities, and therefore I will only to point out the most important. In the doctrinal aspect, both are religions of salvation and mystery because they promise an eternal life of happiness after death to the believer. Well, I still, I don't know if he prescribed that in regards of Christians believing that they go directly to heaven and all that, because I don't believe that. I don't think that's biblical. We are awaiting the resurrection in the future, not going directly to heaven when we die. But anyway, you can see multiple sources that talks about awaiting, and we also have Justin Martyr saying that if you run into someone that believes they're going directly to heaven when they die, don't even believe they're Christians, something of that nature. We have the letter from Asia Minor from the 2nd century where they also talk about they are sleeping. These people are sleeping, await. I think they actually say it at least twice in the letter. They're sleeping, awaiting the resurrection, and so forward. We even have a Roman source. We probably have a lot, but a source that I remember, right? In regards of speaking against the Nazarenes and all that, and actually talking about they believe as we do. They believe in the resurrection of the dead, and so forward. And that Jesus is God and God in the flesh and born of a virgin and all of that. But they're heretics because they keep the law of Moses, They subscribe still to the law of Moses. So they're heretics apparently. Yeah, that's just totally illogical. But you have to understand that, in regards to Romanizers and the Roman Catholic bullshit institution, it is not Christian. So, it is the whore riding the beast, and of course the beast is in regards to the Antichrist of the number 666. It is the Roman triune tyrant. So anyway, so you see all the, you see Rome fulfilling the scriptures in regards of changing times and thinking to change times and laws. It's only thinking to do it. The laws are not changing in regards of God. And if the interesting thing is, if the little horn is thinking to change times and laws, maybe it's because Jehovah's laws is still valid, right? A lot of people will say the law of Jehovah is done away with. Well, if it's done away with, how does the Antichrist think to change times and laws? Well, maybe because the law of Jehovah is still, applicable. What's it called? It's still applicable. No, it's still in effect. That's the word. It's still in effect. So anyway, let's go on here. Mithra is the intermediary between heaven and hell, between the realms of good and evil. He is the representative of Ahura, master on earth, who protects us men from demonic forces of Hariman. Mithra is the light of the world, symbol of truth, justice, loyalty. He's also called the judge of souls, which purified ascends to heaven. Mithra is a heavenly father who receives them in the heavenly mansion. Wow, there's a lot of things that seems to, seems to be the same in regards of Christianity here, in regards of the Gospels. They firmly believe in heaven and hell. Now, of course, but we know that the Gospel of Matthew, that was the Gospel of the Nazarenes. So, Satan is a great what do you call it? He's a master deceiver, and he has many deceptions on many levels. Anyway. So they firmly believe in heaven and hell, survival and resurrection of the body after death, punishment and reward. Benevolent God will do justice to the righteous, who will grant eternal salvation, day of reckoning, when the triumph of light over darkness will definitely occur. I guess it wouldn't actually be so hard to then get these pagans into the Roman Catholic religion. It seems like a lot of the things might just have, yeah, it's just. And if you then take the birth of the Son in regards to the 25 December and make it into so-called Christ Mass, which is actually just a celebration that those following Mithra was keeping, that would make it even easier to make them just to turn to Roman Catholicism, right? To be part of Roman Catholicism. There might not have been so much difference in regards of going from one thing to another. Okay, they're just changing the names and all that, but they pretty much still believe. Okay, interesting. But yeah, let's try that again. In the doctrinal, expect both our religions of salvation and mystery, because they promise an eternal life of happiness after death to the believer. And of course, in regards to believing in Yeshua, we are looking forward to be resurrected to everlasting life, right? And to live with him in paradise in the future. So, let's see. Only initiates, participates of the rites which are secret. Now, that's something that really isn't, maybe it's in regards to Roman Catholicism, but in regards to Christianity, in regards to secret rites, I don't remember any secret rites in regards to the you break the bread with your brothers and sisters and all that, and you can do that daily and drink a little wine and so forward, right? But that's not really secret, it's just Mithra is the intermediary between heaven and hell. Again, Yeshua would be the one having the keys to death and hell, in regards of everlasting life and so forward. And in regards of hell, then that would be Sheol. I don't know how they took it in regards of their view on it. But Sheol or Hades, I don't like to use the word hell, because there's so many, again, there's a lot of ideas out there that ends up, making a lot of problems in regards of valid doctrines. Between the realms of good and evil, well, in regards of Christianity and the Bible, we do understand that there is a battle in regards of God restoring, things again. So, of course, I don't know in regards of Mithra if there was anything in regards of, I guess there wasn't, but, we see that it's paganism, because they go to in regards of this, it's a worship of the literal sun on the sky, right? It's just anyway, it is a pagan belief in sun worship. The sun, the fake sun in some sense, the one that was created by God, and not the one that was born by God. So he is the representative of Asura Master on earth, who protects us men from demonic forces of Ahriman. Mithra is the light of the world. Well, again, that would be a satanic pagan bullshit again, because Yeshua is the true light of the world. I guess Satan is a copycat, right? But of course, if you look at Roman Catholicism, it looks Christian, right, on the outer surface. But if you actually begin to look more into it, you find out it's just a wicked, insane institution that actually is opposing real Christianity on so many levels. Symbol of truth, justice, loyalty. He's also called the judge of souls. Well, that would be Yeshua again. So I can see there's a lot of parallels. Satan he's been very good at making something that is very close to the truth, and yet, letting people following him instead of the truth. So anyway, which purified is sent to heaven. Mithra is the heavenly Father who received them in the heavenly mansion. Again, they firmly believed in heaven and hell, survival and resurrection of the body after death. Well, in regards to resurrection of the body, at some point when Yeshua resurrects us. That was, something that Christians would be looking forward to. Punishment and reward, yeah. Benevolent, God will do justice to the righteous, who will grant eternal salvation, day of reckoning, when the triumph of light over darkness will definitely occur. Yeah, I do see that. So there seems to be a lot of parallels if this is true. So, and that of course would then not make it so hard to actually get the pagans into the Roman Catholic Church, because it would pretty much, just adopting all the pagan bullshit, and it pretty much is pagan bullshit already, It's we see the merging of the Roman mystery religion with, Christianity, or whatever you want, whatever you want to call it, but you see it merging at that point. Yeah, it's just so anyway. What was it in regards of John Chrysostom is also talking against, in regards of Passover and Easter and all. He's so good at flipping things and twisting things, and it's just so sad to see. Instead of standing on the Bible, he's going with the traditions of Rome, like Easter. He's defending Easter instead of defending the Passover and the Bible. So, and he goes into this argument that, all these people at the council and all that, do you really think that they would, he goes into, apparently, I guess some are talking about these things, and he's very, he's very slick, I would, if had I lived at that time and heard him, I would probably just have walked away. I don't know, but at least you have really had to discern. I don't know why someone would have him actually speak when he was breaking down the law. He was clearly Romanizing and not Judaizing. He actually hated the Judaizers and all that. So anyway, let's see here. So yeah, if this is true, there seems to be a lot of aspects that actually could be that seems to be the same in regards of Christianity and the religion of Mithra. Now, of course, the difference is that if they seem to be worshiping the literal sun, right? It seems to be related to, a sun god worship in regards of the soul. Oh, how do I say it in English? They seem to go by the solar, solar god. Where in Christianity we worship Yeshua as he's a man. He's not the literal sun. He was the one creating the sun on the sky on the fourth day. Everything was created through him. That is a great deception from Satan. He's it's very sneaky, very, very sneaky. So, but anyway, in regards of the Roman Catholic Church, just look at all the symbols of this solar religion. In regards of the the sun. It's really, really annoying that in English that that your words are so close together. Anyway, it is also a religion with great moral content, self-control, resistance to sensuality, in which the devotee has to travel a path of purification of 7 degrees until the Father, which is perfect as Mithra, and must to fight the forces of evil. In this struggle, he will have the help of Mithra. And I think it's like a title or something like that in regards of Father. Of course, Yeshua say we shouldn't call anyone on earth Father, right? And yet, what does the Roman Catholics continue to do? And of course, they will flip it around. They would, it's not okay. So it's like, well, Yeshua says, yeah, well, okay. Well, Yeshua says, it's just incredible. This type of religion in which there are no one God, but several, though only one of them is superior to the other, and the only worthy of worship. It is technically called henotheism. Them from the Greek eis hen one, and theos God, theos, and ism one God. The similarities of the rites of both religions are very striking. Okay, so this is what he says. And yeah, if what he writes is true, I would also agree that these are very very close. And if and when you then have Roman Catholicism, just taking on pagan things and all that, and actually being pagan. Yeah, it's just incredible. I don't know why the Christians would ever allow this to happen, to let the I guess ending up fulfilling prophecy, but of course the real Christians was the ones that was persecuted and didn't want to go along with this. And we know that there was we know in the last part of the 4th century they're still around. The Judaizers are still around, those keeping to the truth and not wanting to give up on yeah. Anyway, so the similarities of the rites of both religions are very striking, and I would agree. It seems like there's some very similar things in it. The cult, wasn't there something in regards of that you also had to be Christian to actually be in government at some point in regards of the Roman Empire? And if all the soldiers are following Mithra and all that, then of course I guess they would also need to convert to so-called Christianity. They would become Roman Catholics. I guess I should just say Catholics. You have the Christians and you have the Catholics, right? So the similarities of the rites of both religions are very striking. The cult of Mithras is made in natural or manufactured caves, but with some element to remember the cave origin called Mithraea, or something like that, indicating that its origin is very primitive. In Latin, it's called Spilaium spicus spelunca. Speleology, or study of caves, derives from this word. Or like spelunca? Okay. Okay, it makes sense in regards to the game I played many years ago, where you go down in regards of caves, I guess, underground. Anyway, Antrum, precisely the birth of Christ, which the popular devotion placed in a portal in the west. In the east, it is often presented in a cave. In them, the image of Mithra, tauroton, or slaughtering bulls, after the Greek word tarotonos, from Latin tauros, bull, and Greek keteno, slaughter, kill, appears as the central iconographic motive. What was it I was thinking about? I guess I lost the thing. If you want to, that was the thing in regards of John Chrysostom. When you look, you're finding there's a lot of information where you can see he's actually, there's a lot of information in his document that you can actually use. You can see there's something new. It's a new tradition that is coming around in the last part of the 4th century, and that of course is not long after Constantine and have made this Roman Catholic this merge of the things and all that, and who was still a pagan. He was still the pagan high priest of Mithra, apparently. And yet he would say he would be a Christian. I don't know, it's just incredible. Anyway, the great feast of the birth of Mithra is celebrated, of course, the day of the winter solstice, December the 25th. Oh, really? So this is a professor, a professor that is, an old professor that doesn't work anymore and have spare time now and he says the great feast of the birth of Mithra is celebrated, of course, the day of the winter solstice, December the 25th. The centerpiece is the sacrifice. Without that implies that a bull was sacrificed, really. Now, in regards to the Roman Catholic whorehouses, they sacrifice the cookie. They make the cookie into God, apparently, according to them. and then they sacrifice him for the dead and the living, the cookie, So yeah, but that's I just it's insane. Yeah, I know, but that's and they do it continual, perpetual sacrifice all over again and again and again in all the pagan Catholic whorehouses, pretty much. The synagogues of Satan. Anyway, so Alfred Luisi, in his book The Pagan Mysteries and the Christian Mystery, tells us what is shown is the sacrifice of the bull as the beginning of the blessed life promised to the initiate and of virtue that is in the sacred banquet for obtaining the immortality. So, very interesting. He says that, it was birth of Mithra is on December the 25. And would it be a surprise in regards of if it's actually in regards of worshipping, a sun religion and all that? Now, of course, it wouldn't really be. If you actually look around in regards of the material, you find a lot of, paganism is everywhere in many, in many, what do you call it, packages or whatever. Anyway, within Mithra iconography, the image certainly the best known is the Tarorokton Mithra, who presided certainly the sacred space of Mithrium. I take the exact words of Alfred Lucy to describe it in a good example of ephrasis. Note, ephrasis or ekphrasis from Greek, ekphrasis to explain to the end, and ekphrasis according to the rhetoric and classical tradition is a verbal description in words of a work of visual art or painting or sculpture. I think that was something in regards of images as well, and the sun and the Mithra thing, where they also had this thing going upward and downward. Again, I can't remember overall, but okay, here we have information in regards of the bull in the cave. I guess this is just in regards of their religion. Of course, that hasn't any. They're probably sacrificing it to the false god Mithra or something like that, I would think, and then eating it, so they would be defiling themselves even if they are using a clean animal. But anyway, the bull is in the cave, brought down, lying on the ground, the front legs bent over, the body, the rear extended. Mithra is on the animal, so that's Mithra, standing on the animal and, killing the animal. I do wonder if they actually bloodlet the animal, as we are commanded in the Bible. We are to let the blood, he's knifing the animal in a weird place, if you would, if you would have the blood run out, right? So anyway, so maybe they was also eating meat with blood in the animal. Anyway, so Mithra is on the animal, left knee bent, right leg extended on the right hind leg of the bull. With the left hand lifts the snout of the animal, whose head turns toward the sky, and with his right hand the large knife stabs at birth neck. So stabs at birth neck. It doesn't really looks like he's stabbing it down there, Mithra himself has his head turned as if looking behind him, and often with singular expression of sadness. Generally, a crow left leans toward him. Often in the left corner there is a figure of the sun. In the left corner, right, left. Okay, that would be, I guess, this one maybe. This could look like a sun, like with sun rays and all that. I think he's found with sun rays, as well in regard. But anyway, so left leans towards him. Often in the left corner there is a figure of the sun. To the right of the moon. Below there is a dog which sheds on the blood gushing from the wound. And also a serpent, a scorpion, takes the testicle of the expiring beast with its claws, and it bites them with its tail. Sometimes an ant is also involved. Or below the bull, there is a cractor with a lion which seems to look or drink in it. While on the other side, the snake seems to do the same. On each side, there is a young, one Catus with raised torch, and the other Cautopades with a giving torch back. Both dresses and hairstyles as Mithra. One last thing that should not be the least important: the bull tail raised, ends in the bunch of spikes. There's also monuments in which from wound of bull ears instead of blood springs. These ears are what give meaning to the scene, or it is super fluish. Look for it. I don't know, just whatever. I don't know where the moon was here. The dog is over there, I guess, licking, and apparently this one is in regards to the testicles. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like the Mithra, the religion of Mithra might have some, things in regards of, where it sounds like, having the same doctrines as Christianity, but overall it seems like it also has a lot of things that is absolutely not. Oh, here we have the thing in, I guess French. In this iconographic example, there is represented the Avestan myth of the slain at the origin bull, from whose wound the plants emerge, and from their offspring the spices of farm animals born. Mithra killed the bull. The representation of the sacrifice of the bull is a symbol and remembrance of the sacrifice of the primeval animal. It was the first living creature that was created by Asura Master, and cosmic animal that gave rise to life to men. The death of the bull is a symbol of the new year and salvation in the hereafter. So the Mithraeum of Aventine in Rome, man reads, "You shed men by shedding of eternal blood." Okay, whatever. Another is an essential element of Mithraic ritual is a celebration of the banquet of the Eucharist, banquet or Eucharist, where they ate the bread and drank the holy water, which at one point was wine, substitute of the original drink of fruit of the poisonous plant of Homa, equivalent to soma or Hindu sacred drink. Now, in regards to soma, I remember, when I was in the occult studying, the soma thing they have is in regards of, if I'm correct, but as I remember, soma is in regards of the mushroom that is red and white spots on top of it. But I wouldn't take it if I was you. You can easily get in contact with demons, and that's the when you're doing all these stupidity things and all that, you end up getting in contact with the wrong spirits. Also, an essential element in the rite is baptism or purification. But I do wonder if they actually might have used some of these things in regards of getting into a stage like, I don't know, where they ate the bread and drank the holy water, which at one point was wine, substitute of the original drink fruit of poisonous plant of Homa, equivalent to soma or Hindu sacred drink. So it sounds like it's that they substituting it from that it actually was a psychedelic thing that might have been taken beforehand and maybe evolving into apparently holy water, which apparently was at some point wine, We substitute the original drink fruit or poisonous plant of Homer, which again I guess must have been a psychedelic, equivalent to soma or Hindu sacred drink. And soma, maybe it's something else, maybe the same word but something else. But as I remember, that was in regards of soma, in regards of the mushroom with that is red on top and have some white spots on top as well. Anyway, I can't remember what it's called in English, but in Danish it's a fluesvamp. And we have three. We have two of these. We have the white one and the green one, and they are the ones that are poisonous in Denmark and all that. So you should know if one is going out for mushrooms and all that. That's something to know about, because people have died by eating them in Denmark. Also, an essential element in the rite is baptism or purification by water that the devotee must to perform in one of the 7 steps, and the signal signatio in front in the so-called step soldier. There are many other similarities in the theology and ritual. We cannot comment on this article, such as the clothing of the priest, the initiation ceremony called sacramentum, because it's a similar sort of oath to the military oath soldiers, the touch of chimps at some point of the religious service, and so on. These similarities draw wide attention of the early church fathers, who polemicized sharply with the Mithraist. Indeed, most of the details of these rituals we know from the description which the Christian parents make. I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't use that word, but anyway, maybe the past Christians made. Anyway, Tertullian is the son of a centurion, and he is a connoisseur of the Mithraist rites. Certainly he, impressed by the similarities, only finds an explanation for the many coincidences. These rites and this religion is the work of the devil, who is interested in discrediting and in extinguish the Christian religion. And I would agree that's probably one way of Satan is attacking on many fronts. So on so many levels, it's incredible. It's just there's always a battle. It seems Satan is always trying to get you off track from the truth, and make complications, make it harder for you to gain more truth. And of course that wouldn't be a surprise. Of course Satan would send his very best, right, to try to continue to have the grasp over people. So read what he says in his work, Tertullian Prescription Against Heretics. But lastly, from hence, I pray, comes that interpretation which is the intermediate cause of heresies. From the devil, most certainly, those grand affair, it is corrupt. It is to corrupt the truth. That's what the devil do. He corrupts and twists the truth. And who in his idolatrous mysteries pretend to imitate the sacred rites of the true religion. He in his turn to baptizes some, namely his own disciples and followers, by washing. He promises a purgation from sin, and if I yet remember, Mithra signs his soldiers in their foreheads. He makes an oblation of bread, puts on the form of the resurrection, and withal he crowns them with a mimic martyrdom. But of course, Yeshua, you can still, Yeshua never said that we were to go out and kill anyone. We're just to go out and preach the good news about, him dying for the sins of the world. And sin is transgression of the law. It is not to do away with the law, but it is to do away with the transgressions. He died. He paid the price. He is the ransom. So we are free, But that is not to say that the law is abolished. Now, I know if you go to Paulus and all that, Just be careful of him because you'll end up in lawlessness. So that's pretty much what I have to say about that, I guess. Oh, we have a problem in regards to the connection, apparently. To this also may be added that his chief priest is the husband of one wife, that he had his virgins and his continenters. But if we look back upon the superstitions of Numa Pompilius, if we take a view of the sacerdotal offices, the marks of honor and the privileges, if we reflect upon the sacrificial performances, the instruments and vessels for sacrifices, the variety of vows, and the numerous expiations, we shall manifest see that the devil had in his eyes throughout the whole institution of scrupulous necessity of imitating the Jewish law. What? The Jewish law. Are we still to keep the Jewish law then? That's also the interesting thing when you see this where they use the law of God to attack the law of God and all that. So sometimes they use the law and sometimes they don't use the law, and then it will say that it's done away and all that, right? But anyway, so here we have the Jewish law, and what is the Jewish law? That's the 5 books of Moses. That was what Yeshua kept. As I remember, Tertullian actually ends up getting into a conflict with the Roman Catholic. What happened there? Apparently, I think we crashed. Okay, we shall. Apparently, still crashing. I guess the devil don't want the truth out. Well, he don't. Of course, Satan doesn't want the truth out. That's the whole idea. That must be one of the reasons why he's censoring all the truth, right? He must really have we shouldn't make it too easy for him to deceive the world, right? We should be the salt of the world and stand on truth and pull as much rope we can from Satan to the best of our ability, and we shouldn't just let it go of the rope and let him take it all. Anyway, we shall manifestly see that the devil had in his eyes throughout the whole institution the scrupulous nicety of imitating the Jewish law. Interesting. It is he who hath effected so exactly to express the rites wherewith the Christian sacrament are administered. It is he, I say, that makes use of the same artifice in corrupting the instruments of divine truth and of Christianity. Now, I don't know if being part of, Tertullian being part of Roman Catholicism at some point, and then he leaves it, as I understand it, and if I remember correctly, he does say some words that are not so nice in regards to the Antichrist or the Bishop of Rome and all that. But overall, I don't know if he believed in the cookie Jesus and all that. It seems like a lot of these people where we have the documents believed in the cookie Jesus. The problem is, of course, we have lost a lot of documents from sources that I would have put a lot more input on. Emphasis on, and so like a guy like Melito, and we pretty much don't have that much writings from him. We know he wrote a lot, but we don't have much of his writings. And other people out there, I would have been very interested in reading, and yet we don't have access to it because it's lost. And I think we can thank Rome for a lot of that. Anyway, it is he who effected so exactly to express the rites wherewith the Christian sacrament are administered. It is he, I say, that makes use of the same artifice in corrupting the instruments of divine truth and of Christianity, by drawing one sense from another, taking words from words, parables from parables, and adopting all to a profane faith, which bears from faith some resemblance to the truth, and therefore no one has any reason to doubt but that these spiritual wickedness, from hence heresies proceed, have sprung from the devil, and that they differ not from idolatry. Seeing they both have their rise from the same author, and are both of a like nature, for either heretics feign another art in opposition to the Creator, or if they confess and acknowledge one Creator, they do not allow him these perfections, which are truly and probably his, and therefore every lie they tell of God is a species of idolatry. Anyway, so apparently from 1722, or maybe it's the page, I don't know. But here we have the thing. Similarly, Justin expressed himself, and I really would like to read more in regards of the Christianity in Asia Minor, because I know they rejected Paulus, and thereby, that's a thumbs up. So thereby, I would like, I know they must have had a lot of truth in Asia Minor. And Yeshua was also writing to these 7 congregations in the book of Revelation. So this was, historically, this was really the place that seems to have been the most light in the world. And they was, we see the conflict between Rome and them as well. So yeah, it's great. I just wish we had more information from that area. But yeah. Time is not really, it's very sad. Anyway, similarly, Justin expressed himself, also impressed by the similarities of Christian Eucharist with the metric, including the formulas of consecration, for which as Tertullian, no other explanation is that the intervention of the devil. So after explaining what the Eucharist is, tells us in the Apologia, chapter LXV1 of the Eucharist, for the apostles in the memoirs composed by them, which are called Gospels, have thus delivered unto us what was enjoined upon them, that Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, said, this do in remembrance of me, this is my body, and that after the same manner, having taken the cup and giving thanks, he says, this is my blood, and gave it to them alone, which the wicked devil have imitated in the mysteries of Mithra, commanding the same thing to be done, for that bread and a cup of water are placed with certain incantations in the mystic rites of one who is being initiated, you either know or can learn. Translated by this and that. And in short, as Lucy says, the mysteries of Mithra were a great religion. Anyway, but he doesn't really, this Justin Martyr doesn't really say here that if he believes that the bread becomes the literal body of Christ and all that. But he's absolutely correct in regards of, we have to break the bread, drink the wine, but it's symbolic to remember what Yeshua did once and for all nearly 2,000 years ago. So this is not, the bread does not become the literal God, it's not Jesus. This, Jesus, Yeshua is the living bread that came from the heavens, who died for the sins once and for all, and his wine poured out, for a ransom for us. He was the perfect, spotless, sinless Passover lamb that was slain. So let's see. In short, as Lausey says, the mysteries of Mithra was a great religion. All these historical issues have been extensively studied since the late 19th century, and they are known, but generally they do not reach the public because the authorities and the responsible religious are not know or do not want to know. So all these, okay, let's try that again. In short, as Lausey says, mysteries of Mithra were a great religion. All these historical issues have been extensively studied since the late 19th century, and they are known. But generally, they do not reach the public because the authorities and the responsible religious are not know or do not want to know, and much less to transmit to the faithful whom they should consider not ready to know the historical truth. Yeah, that's actually, that sounds like a good book actually. Might be some more verifications that in regards to the 25th December is actually just the birth of the sun, which totally makes sense. And again, when people are saying, well, some goes this direction, some go that direction, and some go, paganism is all over the world, and it takes many forms, so just because you have different, and have, they borrow from each other, take from each other, just goes one way and another way and all over. So yeah, but it's all paganism, So anyway, let's see. So it causes so much commotion and distress. So all these historical issues have been extensively studied since the late 19th century, and they are known, but generally they do not reach the public because the authorities and the responsible religious are not know or do not want to know. And of course, we know that the preachers behind the pulpit are just totally teethless in our days, They're just singing love songs to the Antichrist, and, they're not teaching. They really should stand for the truth, and apparently a lot of them are also Freemasons, and of course Freemasonry is Satanism. So why would you have a Freemason, a Satanist, stand on the pulpit speaking? And then of course you have the preachers that don't really believe the Bible either. That just have a job, They just, oh yeah. I remember reading a place where, if you're not going to get the position you want, you can always become a priest. Yeah, so even if you don't believe, hey, you can just become a priest. That's incredible. And you have priests that don't believe in creation but believe in evolution. It's total bullshit. You have so many different priests. I've seen so many different stories of where they're promoting paganism or do not care, or marrying homosexuals or whatever. It's incredible how wicked world we live in, and promoting all these pagan traditions as well. It's like, oh, there's a new pagan tradition, let's get it into the church, right? But if you come with the biblical festivals in the Bible, oh no, you are now a Judaizer, right? You are a legalist. You are radical. You are extremist. You are a Jew, and it's just bullshit. And I just don't want to be fed with lies and deception and bullshit, and the Sunday thing as well, and they're promoting all the pagans bullshit, and and they should stand there not deceiving the people but actually speaking the truth, and it's just incredible. So a person like me, if I ever got to a place like that, I would just run out of the building, pretty much, because that is utterly bullshit, And I might actually talk, in regards to the Sabbath and all that. But I know they don't like that, because I actually have been, So that's another story. That was in regards to the pagan New Year of Janus, and I actually did talk with, one, and it's paganism. Why are you keeping it, and so forward, and. And then he just ran away from me, and anyway, that's another. I probably shouldn't. I guess that might be a little in regards of talking bad about people, but it's bullshit. Look at the world. Where are these preachers and shepherds leading you? They're leading you to the Antichrist. They don't even talk about the Antichrist anymore, and if they talk about him, they're singing love songs to him. It's so demonic. It's incredible. If they can't do the job, they should be fired. They're getting a salary, a bag of money for standing for the truth, right? And they can't even do that. So why, it's just, Anyway, whom they should consider not ready to know I guess in regards of, I guess they just, I think I heard someone was like, if you take the salary away from them, they would just run away. They wouldn't have. They are only in there for the money. That's incredible. And I guess it wouldn't actually be a surprise in some sense. Yeah, it's very sad. It's very sad. It's just so diabolical. Why would you have someone that don't even believe the Bible stand behind a podium? Why would you have a Freemason that is a Satanist stand behind the pulpit? You know, I get, why you get and so forward, Anyway, so let's see. Yeah. So I not know or do not want to know, and much less to transmit to the faithful, whom they should consider not ready to know the historical truth. So it causes so much commotion and distress the statement of the hierarchy as simply as that performed by Pope John Paul II on December the 21, 1993, when he acknowledged that Christmas Day replaced the pagan festival of the invincible God, invincible Sun, that would be Sol Invictus, that's Mithra, which coincided with the solstice winter. And I still think you can, as far as you can find other names that you can actually fix in regards to the 25 December, in regards of sun worship and all that, because it comes in many flavors and all that. Anyway, which coincided with the solstice winter. The media news were echo of that, and we can easily locate it anywhere. Hemerotica. Anywhere and I think that was in regards of the newspaper thing library. So here we have a source from the Antichrist in 1993 saying that Christmas Day replaced the pagan festival of Mithra. But, for a lot of people out there, that's not good enough. That's absolutely not good enough. They will just discount it. This is not good enough and all that. Whatever you put forward to them, it's not good enough. So I guess you people out there, you need to do your own research, and make up your own mind, because that's something I cannot do for you. But I I can only, try to lead you in the right direction. But you have to make, you have to make it your own. You have to decide and discern what is actually true and what is false. And there's a lot of deceivers out there that wants you to be kept in deception. So when you become Christian or believer in Yeshua, it's not the time to just sit back. Now the battle really begins, When I was in the occult, Satan was a pretty sweet, I was promoting his doctrines. I was doing pretty much the will of Satan and all that. I didn't really have that many problems with him or his demons and all that. But when I turned to Jesus, when I turned to Yeshua, there was a lot of activity going on, a lot of demonic activity going on. So the fight really begins at that point, and Satan will do whatever he can to try to get you back. Anyway, or try to get you off track or this and that, and he has his children out there working for him. The children of the devil. So just remember that not all people out there think like you think. If you're just looking for truth and you're truthfully just looking for truth and all that, just remember that not all people out there in the world are thinking like you. There's people out there that are ready to do the devil's work. I don't know how you could be so, what do you call it? Be so depravated, or what is it called? I don't know how you could get to that point, but So, but anyway, but that's just how it is. Note hemerotica from Greek hemera, de antica, wardrobe, safe, deposit in which news and data and magazines are stored. I could just have read a little further. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I don't know why I didn't read further when I quoted this thing, but I guess I found some of the same thing in regards of newspapers, for example, being a library for newspapers and such. Anyway, so he says at least, so this is an information that one can get. It's interesting because the mysteries of Mithra were a great religion. Yeah, I really, yeah, anyway. The declaration of successor of John Paul II, Pope Benedict the 16th, caused no less surprise and dismay among the faithful devotees when in November of 2012 he published the book The Childhood of Jesus, which he recognizes the error of the calendar to set the date of birth of Jesus, or he claims that the iconographic elements of birth of Jesus as an accompaniment of the mule and ox are mere ornaments of tradition and they have nothing to do with historical reality. This suppression of these animals disoriented many citizens practicing religion with apparent naivety. And again, if you go to John Chrysostom, you can look it for yourself, and you can see that this is a new celebration, and there's debate about this and all that. He's promoting this, and apparently it wasn't that popular, so he's making more, in regards of he's really promoting it. It's just incredible. Tagging the real festivals and promoting the pagan bullshit of Rome. Anyway. So wouldn't it make sense that if Christ Mass begins to come around in the late 4th century, and we have Constantine, in regards of the Council of Nicaea in 325, I think it is, who's still a pagan, he's still the high pagan priest of sun worship in regards of Mithra. Would if the pagans are then in this century actually forced into the Roman Catholic Church, and they have a celebration in regards of Mithra on the 25th December, wouldn't it just, and they then change Mithra, the sunbirth of Mithra, into so-called Christ Mass, in regards of the Mass, again, which is also seems to be sun-related, You have all these sun things, right? All these in regards of going back to the sun. Not the dead sun in some sense. The dead sun, not the living sun. I guess that's one way of. It's really hard to, the English. I really have to see if there's a synonym I maybe can use for sun. But anyway, so then the pagans come into the Roman Catholic tradition, and then then the Roman Catholic Church begins to promote this Christ Mass tradition, and then of course it makes sense when we see it in the late fourth century, where John Chrysostom is promoting as Romanizing at his places. Wouldn't that make sense? I think it would make sense. So that of course is further to study into this. Did the religion of Mithra actually join up with Roman Catholicism? I think there might be a pretty good chance that actually happened. So I would need some more evidence for that. But we know that the religion of Mithra disappeared, right? So when did it disappear? If it disappeared in the 4th century, well, then it would pretty much be a pointer that they probably joined the Roman Catholic system, which already had Constantine, at least, at the time of Constantine, he was already the high pagan priest of Mithra. So, and he was, part of now the Roman Catholic Church, right? There must be someone that has written about these, exposed these diabolical things, and actually, in real history, there must be some Protestants, out there that has written, so that's the thing. Usually the Protestants are just trying to seek truth. And the thing is, there's people out there trying to hide the truth and twist the truth and all that. So it's really, so when you actually, even if a Protestant got some things wrong, if he could still be trying the best that he can do, and then still be led on some falsehood because there are these people out. But he might actually have the heart in the right direction, that he just wants the truth, and yet he might make a mistake. Yet that's not to say that he is deceptive. That might just be because he's been led astray in regards of so. But then, of course, there are these people out there that's willingly trying to deceive and twist the things and all that. So it's a battle between the truth and lies and deceptions, and it has been an ongoing battle for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So you really have, it's hard to discern, because we know there are wolves in sheep clothing out there, but it can be really hard to discern sometimes in regards of, because even if a person is wrong in something, doesn't mean he's a wolf. It just means he's not right. It doesn't mean that he's pushing this because he is trying to deceive. But then of course there's the wolves out there that yeah. So it's one have to be careful. Really, really, really have to be careful. So this suppression of these animals disorientated many citizens practicing religion and apparent naivety. Well, back to the topic of Mithraism. Okay, so, so this is something we should be able to verify, that this guy said this and all that and he's the head of Romanism, right? So, he's a Roman, so, and probably well educated. Usually, a lot of these people in this position are well educated, so anyway, they're just working for the wrong power, in some sense, the wrong God. You have the true living gods, and then you have, of course, you have the false God, and the false God is the broad way that leads to destruction, and there's many ways to worship him, and he doesn't really care how you do it, just as long as you do it, as long as you don't find the truth. So every kind of worship doesn't, in regards of if it's a tree or an idol, a stone or whatever, it doesn't matter. Satan doesn't care. But, he gets worship, of it, Anyway, it might have different names and all that, but still, it's worship to the devil. So anyway. Let's see here. So the declaration of the successor of John Paul II, Pope Benedict XVI, caused no less surprise and dismay among the faithful devotees when in November 2012 he published the book, The Childhood of Jesus, which he recognized the error of the calendar to the set date of birth of Jesus, or he claims that the iconographic elements of the birth of Jesus, as the accompaniment of the mule and ox, are mere ornaments of traditions, and they have nothing to do with historical reality. This suppression of these animals disorientated many citizens practicing religion with apparent naivety. I'm not sure. Well, back to the topic of Mithraism. I will say that Franz Cumont, 1868 to 1947, historian and philologics, Belgian, put the basis of historical studies about this religion. He published a huge documentary work about that. Documentary? Would that be documentary? Would that be like a movie? Historian and philologist, Belgian, put the basic of historical studies about this religion. He published a huge documentary work about that. I guess it could also just be books, documentary work about that. He, having been a teacher at university for several years, was rejected as a professor at the University of Ghent by Catholic education minister. The fact caused a huge media and student campaign to reject the interference of religion in college. Another specialist in the study of the history of the mystery religions was Alfred Lousy, 1857 to 1940, theologian and French priest, contemporary of Cumont. He is considered the founder of modern biblical studies. He soon came, it seems like these sources might actually go back to, it is from Spain, right? And mostly Spain is a Roman Catholic country, right? He soon came into conflict with the Vatican, which excommunicated him in 1908, and his books were being included each year in the index. Were being included each year in the index. That was something that they had like an index of banned books or something like that, but I can't remember what that was. But anyway, the Second Vatican Council rehabilitated him implicitly and partially. His work Lis Pains Mysteries and Christian Mystera was published in 1919, but in Spanish it was not until 1967, outside of Spain, of course, entitled The Pagan Mysteries and the Christian Mystery. In Spain was reprinted in 1919. In 1909, he was appointed professor at the prestigious French college, where he taught and researched for many years. So, anyway. So I guess, I don't know in regards to the documentary work. They are really exciting few paragraphs of the preface to the first edition, in which we can discover the consciousness of a man who using the method of history has discovered what he believes to be the truth, but whose publications must certainly cause novelty. He, fearing an unexpected death, believe it is his duty to publish the historical truth that he has found, but it is aware of the need to keep expanding and showing that information. I transcribe these paragraphs as an example of the difficulties that not long ago and even today the historians find, but they should only serve historical truth that the text transmitted to them. See here. Life is short, and when man feels the years as imminently fragile, man has perhaps the right to say without much delay what he has been believed grasp of truth. An in-depth and thorough of all testimony concerning the pagan mysteries and Christian origins discussion could absorb many stocks. And man is not required at all, no doubt, to be silent about it, waiting for a generation of scholars have thoroughly scrutinized all details. It is also possible to ask whether it is absolutely essential to have exhausted the question to know what to expect on essential points. Moreover, as it relates to Christian origins, knowledge of the text is not all, and the total independence of judgment is important. The texts are known and studied from a time, but criticism hardly differs from the faith, whose oldest documents are those texts. Addressing them without theological or polemical interest is undoubtedly conditioned to understand them well from the standpoint of the history. Well, this condition can still to be at present a great novelty. I'm not sure what we got out of that, but anyway, okay, that was the end of it. La via est corta et lis, whatever. So anyway, we see that we have some evidence that the 25 December is actually related to Mithra, the sun god Mithra, and that's pretty much what everybody else has said, right? Out there, and which people tries to. But anyway, if that is not enough, I guess we could find some more sources here and there. But in any case, because there seems to be many directions that things can go. Because again, if paganism had already taken over at the time of the Tower of Babylon, and we know that the gods went down, said, let us go down and confuse their languages. Well, if Jehovah confused their languages, well, and they already had pagan doctrines, if they already had corrupted themselves with paganism, with the falsehood, well, that would be, that would be spreading all over the world. They would have taken their traditions with them, probably, right? So that's most likely, so anyway, let's stop this one and let's see what we have more. This was in regards of the Roman Saturnalia parties and Christmas. Oh, we have something in regards of Saturnalia. Let's see what it has to say. But I guess, a lot of people just want to have some sweet words spoken into their ears, so they have something to still believe that, that Christ Mass is not of pagan origin. And even if it doesn't have pagan origin, it's still a Roman tradition, It's not found in the Bible. But as it seems to go back to, Mithra. Mithra, in regards to Sol Invictus, Mithra is Sol Invictus in regards to the unconquerable sun god. So, yeah, it's a religion of the sun. Not the fleshly sun, but the, non-fleshly sun, It's still a little hard to the dead sun, the dead sun and the living sun. The living sun is God's son, right? So, but the dead son, of course, is the one from Satan. That's the cookie. No, that's a son, right? Yeah, well, that's pretty much, I guess, also the cookie as well. But it looks like, look at it. It looks like the sun. It's put in the monstrance that looks like sunburst, and they do it on the date of the sunbirth. Could it be more obvious? And they do like to do things on Sunday as well, which also points to Sol Invictus and Mithra and all that. So anyway, but it seems like, people out there, the battle ongoing, and people, oh yeah, it's not this and that, and there's no paganism and all that in Christmas and all that. And again, I think you have to be utterly blind if you can't see the paganism, all these different, and then they make fun of it in regards, well, the pagans eat, are you not allowed to eat? Oh, give me a break, That's not when God is talking about don't do as the pagans. It is in regards to their customs, because their customs are vain. Their vanity. They are empty air. We shouldn't do as they do. This is not talking about you shouldn't eat or you shouldn't this and that. These stupid arguments. That is put forward. It's just going around the Christmas tree, spouting there. Anyway, so let's see here. The word Christmas, Navidad in Spanish, with which we designate Christ's birthday party, derives from the Latin word nativitatem, which literally means birth. Nacimiento in Spanish. In the early centuries of Christianity, the birth of Jesus and his baptism took place on the 2nd of January. Epiphany Day, from the Greek epiphania, which means manifestation, apparition, and is still held on the date in the Eastern Orthodox Church. It's, by the way, very interesting in regards of when I made the video yesterday, I didn't have one complaint about the connection. And I had nearly a 10-hour video, and it never complained about the connection. And, it's just interesting. See here. In the West, the 6th day of January, we celebrate the curious feast of the 3 wise men, who, according to St. Matthew Gospel, came to offer their gifts to the baby Jesus, who had just been born in Judea. To remember and imitate it, toys and many other kinds of presents are given to children on the 6th of January in some countries like Spain. The first written reference to Epiphany as a Christian feast appears in the year 361 in the Ammianus Marcellinus 21-5. Okay, so 361, that's the first record of this. Again, I don't think the Christians would have been keeping this. What the Christians would have been keeping was the festivals of Jehovah found in the Torah as Yeshua did. And as we see the Nazarenes doing. And in order temporarily to conceal this, that he had renounced Christianity on the day of the festival, which the Christians celebrate in the month of January, and called the Epiphany, he went to that church and departed after offering a prayer to that deity in the usual manner. Okay. Well, anyway, in its Latin version of that, yeah. And Epiphanius of Salamis also concretes in his Panaria. Oh, that's Epiphanius. That was the guy that wrote the book Panarion. Was in regards to the medic. I think that was probably the medical book against heresies and all that, where he writes against the Nazarenes and the Ebionites and all that. That was, of course, those two groups that I was most interested in, and I'm still interested in knowing about these groups, because these were Jews, mostly Jews, and they were still keeping the law of Moses. Now, of course, the Ebionites, as far as I have studied and know, they came out from the Nazarenes, and they ended up in some bad doctrines. Now, we have pretty solid ground that the Ebionites rejected Paulus as an apostle, but I think they could have gotten that from the Nazarenes. And we have other sources talking about the Nazarenes actually. So I think that the Nazarenes most likely ended up rejecting Paulus. As we see in the New Testament, all Asia are rejecting Paulus. I think that probably go hand in hand with the Nazarenes rejecting him as well. I think they found out he was false and thereby rejected him. But anyway, that's I don't have any totally solid evidence for that. I can just show the last letter of Paul where he says that all Asia rejected me. You can go to the book of Revelation where Yeshua is writing to Ephesus, for example. He's letting John write to 7 congregations in Asia Minor, which is the exact area that rejected Paulus. And of course, we know Paulus was there because we have some information on that, and also in Ephesus and all that. And Yeshua is talking to Ephesus, where we know Paulus was, and Yeshua is saying to them that there were some false apostles, and they tested them and they found them liars. And I have to ask the question: how many is running around in the first century saying they are apostles in the name of Christ? How many do you think are running around in the first century? Well, we know Paul was running around, right? And we know he, thought himself an apostle, right? So, and of course he was a Roman Pharisee, right? Anyway, that's a whole nother subject and all that. But I don't subscribe to Paul. I can read his letters, but you really have to be careful. That's in regards to the leaven. I think he leads so many people into the wrong path and into lawlessness as well. But there are so many things that Paul opens the doors for. And it's the same guy that is also used every time to defend lawlessness. So anyway, I have some experience with it over the years. So anyway, the Epiphany of the Lord, January the 5th of the dawn of the January the 6th, and the 11th day of the Egyptian month Type. On the other hand, the birth of the god Mithras, the Persian sun god, is held on December 25, the day of winter solstice. Because on that day, the sun begins to appear sooner, that is, it is born again, leading to a new solar year. And we also have a solar calendar, don't we? Is that the calendar that is found in the Bible? Nope. So, anyway, so you see all this sun thing, pointing to the sun, this and that and all that. Anyway, The word solstice derives from the Latin solstitium, solstatum, stara or sistera, stop. Because of the apparent stillness or slow movement of the sun as it reaches the tropics. Until that day, the day or light space has been decreasing, but from that time on, the day grows and grows like a newborn. It's like 3 days or something like that, where the sun stands still, as I understand it, then it begins to go up again. But anyway, so yeah. Mithraism was a religion very widespread throughout the empire by the Roman legions, and as a religion of salvation was clearly competing with Christianity. As in many other cases, the date became Christianized, moving the celebration of the birth of Jesus to the date of the birth of Mithras. Well, I'll just take that and copy it. Copy. Of course, the new year as well, in regards to the Roman pagan calendar, is pagan as well. It's not defendable. I'm just tired of people trying to defend something that is not defendable. And I'm tired of wicked, deceivers and liars and, or blind people that, trying to lead the people astray from the law of Jehovah. And, it's just, going to attacking them, and if they want to, if they want to call people Judaizers, well, I'll just throw it back at them, Romanizers. And I guess that was one of the reasons why I actually began to use that word, and I found out that it actually is a word that actually exists. That was interesting. I don't think it has been. I don't know if it actually has. I don't know where it actually has been used. But it is exactly what it is, so it wouldn't be surprised if anyone else had actually come up with it in the past, because you always hear from the Romanizers, Judaizer, and all that, or they're Judaizers and all that. Well, what are those that actually says that? Well, they are Romanizers. They are promoting the Roman traditions and destroying the law of Jehovah, whereas the Judaizers are trying to get back to and uphold the law. So that's the groups, pretty much. Okay, I guess it's nice to see some connections here. That was interesting. At least, and of course, people wouldn't be, they would need more evidence. I think I've collected enough evidence to know that this is pagan. I don't really need more. But you get into this, and you get annoyed of things, and then you get back to the subject. I guess it happens a little every Christ Mass or Yule and all that, because people have a way of attacking the truth and all that. So anyway, so let's see here. The word solstice derives from the Latin. So Mithraism was a religion very widespread throughout. Maybe we should also, usually also put the. There we go. So. Yeah, I like to put the source in there for others and for myself as well. You never know if you want to look after it again, and it's a nice thing to actually put the source in the. It would be nice if it actually did that automatically, but let's see, paste. Oh well, it's not so easy on the mobile. There we go. There we go. So Mithraism, I can fix the rest on the computer, But Mithraism was a religion very widespread throughout the empire by the Roman legions, and as a religion of salvation was clearly competing with Christianity. As in many other cases, the date became Christianized, moving the celebration of the birth of Jesus to the date of the birth of Mithras. And again, when you then know that Mithra in regards of the sun, pagan religion and all that, and the question is, when did the religion of Mithra actually disappear? Again, if it disappeared in the 4th century, that might be a pointer that the people of Mithra was joining the Roman pagan wicked system, and that might also be why Christmas is then beginning to be promoted in the late 4th century. So then you see the puzzle pieces, right? I don't know if it's totally true and all that. I'm trying to collect the pieces and all that, but that would make sense to me. That and again, it seems like the 4th century is very interesting. There's a lot of things going on in the 4th century. I really need to see, at some point I hope to find a very good historical source about the 4th century. Now, of course, I want to read more about the congregations in Asia Minor as well. But I think I pretty much have pinpointed the things, We just have to go, they kept the festivals found in the Bible. They were upholding the truth of biblical truth and not just going along with the Roman bullshit. So, let's see here. So on the other hand, the birth of the god Mithras, the Persian sun god, is held on December 25, the day of the winter solstice, because on that day the sun begins to appear sooner. That is, it is born again, leading to a new solar year. And again, you have people researching things in regards to buildings around the world and all that, and also finding out there seems to be a connection in regards to this, this birth of the sun. That seems like it goes back to worship of the sun. Not the dead sun, not the living sun. Yeah. Hopefully you understand what I'm. The living bread, that's Jesus. The living sun is Jesus. It's Yeshua. Okay, I hope you get that. And the dead one would be the dead one, right? The literal sun in the sky, right? That would be the dead sun. That is actually created by the living sun, Everything was created by the living sun. Everything, and that includes the dead sun, So, on the 4th day, according to the Bible. See here, we're pretty much okay. So Mithra, okay. So as in many other cases, the date became Christianized, moving. So as in many other cases, the date became Christianized, moving the celebration of the birth of Jesus to the date of the birth of Mithras. In many cultures, the birth of the new year is associated with the birth of a divine child, with the birth of a sun god, the literal sun. So in many cultures, the birth of the new year is associated with the birth of a divine child, with the birth of a sun god, Again, go back to the Bible and find me any place where God is using a pagan Roman calendar, or that he says anything in regards of keeping anything in regards of when the sun begins to go up again. Don't you think he would have instructed us if this was something he wanted us to keep? Don't you think so? Just think a little, right? But he has his own calendar in the Bible. He has his own festivals in the Bible. And, let's just return to those. We can't go wrong with those, That's pretty much. We can go wrong with these other traditions of men, but we cannot go wrong with what is found in the Bible. Moreover, the Roman calendar fixed the dates of the numerous religious festivals of the inhabitants of Latium in honor of their gods. In December, they celebrated several parties which are reflected in the current calendar, precisely in our Christmas party. And again, when we also keep Christmas, it's the whole month, that is pretty much, for this celebration. You see people going out drinking, celebrating so-called Christmas and all that, which leads back to the false cookie Jesus of the Roman Catholics. And of course, having the day of the sun birth and all of that, right? looking like the literal sun and putting in a, with, if you just search on monstrance, you can see it looks, yeah, okay, let's do it, okay. So you have the little cookie, right? The wafer god of the Roman Catholics, and then they put it in a monstrance, okay. So now I'll show you, how it looks, and there's different in regards of, but it pretty much looks like sun rays. Monstrance and what shall we say, Eucharist, they call it these, they call it other things, the victim and anyway, maybe I wrote that wrong. Let's see. Yeah, no, that seems to be. Did I see monstrance? Apparently I forgot C, but it did seems to work anyway. Monstrance and Eucharist. So this is the God of the Roman Catholics. Okay, this is the papist God. This is the God of the papist. I usually call them poopist, and I might not be the most the most nice thing and all that, but this is the God of the Roman Catholics. This is the God. It's there in the middle of this sunburst around it. Does it look like a sun? Is it round like a sun? Does it have sun rays around it? And they're walking around with this and all that bullshit, and they're allowed to worship this. This is their God. This is literally their God. This is one of the demonic ways of worshiping Satan. Oh, you actually have. Do we have the eye in the middle? No, it's not an eye. But anyway, and you can see multiple of these things. I don't really like, and there we go with the Antichrist. There he stands. I don't know if this might be a picture from Christ Mass. Christ Mass. Do you understand Christ Mass now? The connection. Christ Mass. They believe the cookie becomes the literal body, flesh, and soul and sinews of Jesus. Do you understand that? Okay. So, and you can see the Antichrist doing his abominations on the television. It should be in the television around the 24th December, 25 December. I haven't checked and all that. I'm not interested in seeing it anyway. The only reason I wanted to see it last year was so I could see it with my own eyes, was being done, but I just couldn't. It's just so disgusting. I just couldn't continue to see it. That was just utterly disgusting. But this is pretty much that. It's a cookie god of the Roman Catholics. Now if you talk to a Roman Catholic, they might sound very Christian. Ask them about the cookie Jesus. Ask them if they believe that this piece of bread becomes God. And if they're honest, they will say yes. But they won't tell it to you if you don't know and ask the question. And of course we have the Mary bullshit as well, so-called Mary, right? The Queen of Heaven, yeah, bullshit. That's another bullshit thing, Paganism disguised as Christianity. Anyway, so now I guess it's just coincidence that all things seems to be related to the sun, right? To the dead sun. Yeah. Anyway, in many the more you find out in regards to Roman Catholicism, the more what is called the more surprised and what do you call it? The more disgusting it becomes. In pretty much, it's just you're thinking this is just so evil. And it is evil. It is the greatest deception of Satan. So anyway, making itself out to be something it's not, because it's the old Roman mystery religion that has just put on sheep clothing. So anyway, in many cultures of the new year is associated with the birth of the divine child, with the birth of a sun god, the dead sun god. Moreover, the Roman calendar, understand that the Roman calendar is not found in the Bible, okay? Moreover, the Roman calendar fixed the dates of the numerous religious festivals of the inhabitants of Elysium in honor of their gods. In December, they celebrated several parties, which are reflected in the current calendar precisely in our Christmas party. I'm not sure how that works out. In December, they celebrated several parties, which are reflected in the current calendar precisely in our Christmas party. I do wonder if that might be also in regards of first Advent, second Advent, third Advent, fourth Advent. We have, it's like, where do you see that in the Bible? Absolutely nowhere. And it's interesting, right? Sunday, 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 Sunday. When you actually look at in Denmark, for example, and see all the church traditions and what they are upholding, you have so many Sunday, Sunday my this, Sunday my that, Sunday whatever, and of course they have the weekly Sunday gathering as well. Can it be more obvious? Can it be more obvious where they are pointing at? Are they pointing to Jesus Christ, or are they pointing to the pagan sun god? Anyway, in fact, during the Roman Empire, also see here, okay. In fact, during the Roman Empire, 3 parties were held in December, and they were simultaneous in some of the 7 days when they were celebrated. The Saturnalia, the Opalia, and Sigillaria. The Sigillaria, also called from Sigilla or Oscilla, small ceramic figures. At this party, trading posts with ceramic figures to give children away as toys were mounted like a fashion market. These small clay images are memories of ancient sacrificial rituals in which the victim was replaced by the clay figurine. In these Roman celebrations, thus, we find different elements of our current Christ Mass and Carnival. In regards to Carnival, I wouldn't keep Carnival either. That smells like paganism as well. In late December, they especially, if you want to find a man-made tradition that wasn't in regards of bullshit paganism and actually was based on some truth, you have Poop Day. Poop Day was something that came around after the Roman Catholics tried to blow up the Parliament, the English Parliament, with the Protestant English Parliament. They tried to blow it up, and thereby a festival, in some sense, called Poop Day was celebrated each year. Also in the U.S., it was celebrated in England and in the U.S. as far as I remember. You can look it up, Poop Day. Just, there's some Wikipedia information on Poop Day and other places. And I would be very interested in to actually see the material that we have in regards to songs or preaching on those days and all that, because this is the very day where you expose the Antichrist totally. So this was actually a celebration that was based on history, to remember who the Antichrist is, to remember the main enemy of Christ on this earth. Who the office and seat is in regards of the Antichrist. Anyway, so that would be one thing that I wouldn't disagree with, but it's still not found in the Bible. So first and foremost, we should focus on those festivals found in the Bible. But and they were burning, like some other places. Apparently, they burned a doll of the Pope and the devil together on a bonfire. But the thing is, you could preach about the Antichrist, and it would have kept it in memory who the Antichrist is. The biblical, historical, prophetic Antichrist is, and all that. That would be something that could have been kept alive by actually having that day. So, but anyway, but of course we don't keep that. No one apparently keeps that anymore. But yeah. At least it's man-made, but at least it's based on standing on truth, and making people remember who the Antichrist is. and teaching the children about that as well and all that. Yeah. Anyway, all these pagan traditions, have just empty air and vanity in it. So I guess Poop Day would be considered a Protestant celebration. And that's maybe why it would have actually had valid information in it. Actually had some validity, in regards of truth, and actually could have been helpful in regards of upholding truth. Anyway, now no one knows who the Antichrist is anymore. If we had like a festival like that, I think the people would then still know who the Antichrist was, because it would be something that they kept every year and was remembered by every year. And again, the preachers, this is just, it's a ball in the air for preaching against the Antichrist and preaching on the scriptures in regards of the Antichrist and in regards of history and all that, real history and so forward. Anyway, but now in our days, no one really seems to want to know about any truth, and the world have gone nutcase pretty much, and now the people are rounding around the Antichrist. Anyway, in these Roman celebrations, thus we find different elements of our current Christmas, our Christmas, and Carnival. In late December, they especially celebrate the Saturnalia, the feast of Saturn, god to whom they attributed the introduction of agriculture and civilized life. Saturn is one of the ancient gods of Latium, and his worship and celebration seems to have fallen and reborn several times during the Latin history. Under Augustus' times, the feast was celebrated for 3 days. On the 7th, 8th, and 9th of December, someone we don't know who added a 4th day, when Caligula added a 5th day, which he called Juvenalis, Youth Day, later confirmed by Claudio. So I heard that it was 7 days from the other guy that we saw yesterday. But anyway, Suetonius Caligula 17. In the latter, he presented to the men forensic garments, and to the women and children purple scarves, to make a perpetual addition to the public joy forever. He added to the Saturnalia parties 1 day, which he called Juvenalis, the juvenile feast. Alexander Thompson. In terms text, it's even spoken of 7 days. That was the guy, the philosophy guy, whatever. He talked about 7 days. In some texts, it's even spoken of 7 days. For example, Martial, in one of the epigrams of the 72, book 14, which he devoted entirely to the gifts that were given in the banquet of the parties, and therefore it is called apophoreta, that means gift to take away, from the Greek apo, from away, and phorein, take, tells us. Okay, anyway. Black pudding. And of course, black pudding would be what? That would be blood, wouldn't it? I think there's blood in black pudding, blood sausage and all that. I'm not entirely sure, but that would of course be unclean food. And pig is unclean as well. And, lobster, clams, crabs, eel, and so forth. Anyway, black pudding, this sausage which comes to you in midwinter, came to me before the 7 days of the Saturnalia. I guess black pudding would be the same that we also eat in our days in Denmark in the winter. And you put syrup on it and all that. And I really loved that in the past. I don't eat it anymore. I guess it should be, one should be able to make a replacement of it, without blood and so forward, but still with spices and all that. I think I might have seen one actually, maybe a vegetarian version or whatever. I can't remember, but
overall, that would be, you're eating blood. So that would be no go according to the Bible. So this sausage which comes to you in midwinter came to me before the 7 days of Saturnalia. And I guess in regards to the blood sausage and all that, or black pudding, I think it's the same thing, if I remember correctly, when you look it up. But I think, there's a lot of spices in it. So it should be, one should be able to make a vegetarian version of it or something like that, or something without blood, something that is kosher, and still taste the same, then you could, Anyway, they will have botulus, something. Okay, that's the black pudding. Anyway, the grammarian Macrobius the first. 10 Macrobius is Latin grammarian who lived between the 4th and 5th century AD. His most important work is precisely the Saturnalia, in which a literary banquet is held in the framework of the Saturnalia, in which several senators discuss about various historical and mythological subjects, antiques, grammar, and especially about the poet Virgil. The first book is devoted to investigate the origin of the Saturnalia precisely. At the end of the year, one's agricultural tasks were just over, and they expected for the next sowing or seed time. According to Varro Saturn, he derives from Satur and this one from Saro, meaning sow. They held a kind of harvest festival of irrepressible joy and relaxation of the rigid social mores. During these holidays, business were paralyzed, children had school vacation, the courts were not working, and wrongdoers could not be punished. It is especially interesting and curious the social order reversal or turnabout established between the slaves and the master in these days, and remembers us the legendary golden age when everything was abundance, equality, and harmony. On that day, the slaves talked to their masters with all freedom of expression and participated in the banquet of festival dressed like their masters, who served them at the table. They also wore the pileus, a hat of red felt that freedmen put on their heads as a symbol of freedom. The pileus is thus the symbol of the general freedom of these days. A red hat, apparently. Probably the Phrygian cap of the participants of the French Revolution has its origin in the Roman pileus used by the slaves during the Saturnalia. This way it is reflected among numerous texts, and these ones by Martial and Horace, Martial 11:6. In Rome in Saturnalia, and these festive days of the sky-bearing old man, Saturn, when the dice box rules supreme, you will permit me, I feel assured, clap-clad Rome to sport in unlabeled verse. You smile, I may do so then, and am not forbidden. From Bronze Classical Library, 1897. Anyway, of course, Saturnalia is, I think we already have found the connection in regards of Mithra and Christmas. So that seems to be the connection that, we have there. But again, the whole December month is pretty much, people are pretty much celebrating, Christmas the whole month, counting to the day of Christmas and all that. And then, of course, the Antichrist is shown in the television doing his wicked things. And again, the word Christ Mass. You get it? The Mass of the Roman Catholics, So I've listened long and fain a word would say, but as a slave I dare not. Davos, Yes, Davos, true and faithful, good enough, but not too good to be of lasting stuff. Horace, well, take December license. Are not bulk our father's good intention, have your talk. Okay, so he's saying, oh, well, take December license. It's a license, in regards. Okay. The following epigrams of Martial collect several of the striking features of this holiday season: casual robes, wearing the pileus, loud crabs, prizes and gifts of the banquet, drunkenness, and revelry. That sounds pretty much like Christmas, doesn't it? In regards of, and by the way, wearing the pileus, well, a lot of people are wearing a red, like the gnome hat, right? But anyway, don't know if that would have any connection, but just interesting, right? If they were running around with red hats on in the past, and we're still running around with red hats, yeah. Anyway, casual robes, allowed crabs. Not sure what crabs. Oh, crabs is exactly. Is that like a gambling thing or? Oh. Dice. Okay. Gambling, game played with 2 dice, or something in regards of gambling. Yeah. Do people do that at Christmas? Yeah, they gamble in regards of gifts, right? In some sense, I guess that I'm not sure if it's called gambling overall, but I don't know. Would that be considered gambling? In regards of when you need to have a specific number, and if you get a specific number with the dice, you're allowed to take a package and all that. That's something that people do in our days anyway. I guess that probably could be considered some kind of gambling. Prizes and gifts at the banquet. Prices. We also have prices. We have the price in regards of the. Well, that's another in regards of coming from the. So if I remember correctly, pagan traditions in regards of eating this, and when you find this, you get a prize and whatever. And gifts of the banquet. So big gift at the banquet. Okay, yeah. That's drunkenness. And revelry, that would be exactly what? I think unrestrained merrymaking. Yeah, that would pretty much be what what there is, right? So that sounds pretty much like Christmas overall. You could pretty much put Christmas, the word, in there. I think. Several of striking features of this holiday, yeah. Bum bum bum. I just taking a screenshot. Uh-oh. Have some problems here taking a screenshot. There we go. I hate when it's, go away. I don't want you. I want to take a screenshot without you. That bullshit coming up. Anyway, the citizens removed the toga and wore a loose, comfortable, homespun dress called a synthesis, and then they put the pileus on their heads, which reminds us of the carnival customs and mask. Anyway, so I don't know. How long is this? This is ongoing. Okay, it's not that much left. It's a good amount. But yeah, so let's see it. To the reader, Martial, to the reader about Saturnalia festivities. Now, while the knights and the lordly senators delight in the festive robe, and the cap of liberty is assumed by our Jupiter. So does it have anything in regards of, I don't know. And while, Jupiter would be one of the false gods, wouldn't it? It's assumed by our Jupiter, I don't know. And while the slave, as he rattles the dice box, has no fear of the aedile, not sure what that is, but like kind of a law or whatever. An elected official who was responsible for the maintenance of public buildings and the regulations of festivals, also supervised markets and the supply of grain and water. Okay. So aedile, seeing that the pounds are so nearly frozen, learn alternately what is alluded to the rich and to the poor. Let each make suitable presents to his friends, that these contributions of mine are follies and trifles, and even worse, who does not know, or who denies what is so evident. But what can I do better, Saturn, on those wet days of pleasure, which your son himself has consecrated to you in compensation for the heaven from which he rejected you. Would you have me write of Thebes or of Troy or of the crimes of Messinae? You reply, play with nuts, but I don't want to waste even nuts. Let's see. Synthesis was an informal homespun garment, which is the usual one on the Saturnalia. Even Domitian himself wore the Peleus, symbol of the freedom of these days. These days gambling was allowed, banned the rest. A joke these days was to throw someone to the lake, to the iced pylon. Okay, they alternated valuable gift with the ridiculous of the banquet. They alternated valuable gifts with the ridiculous at the banquet. Because of the drunkenness, in regards to what? Saturn on these wet days, because of the drunkenness. Okay. Okay, I get that. And in regards of, because Jupiter dethroned Saturn. So again, these are pagan gods that are talked about. Apparently Jupiter and Saturn, one dethroning the other and so forward. And so we have in regards to drinking, but we all, we know December is a month of drinking. We have, in Denmark, we have juleøl, Christmas beer. And it's just a tradition in Denmark to just drink, when they're releasing the Christmas beers and people are waiting for them and so forward, and celebration, drinking, whoring, all these, all the things that goes along with that. Anyway, so it's interesting. So let's see here. So Marshall's references, who, as I already said, devoted a whole book to the Saturnalia gift. Book 14, in addition to the quoted ones, are many, all of them full of wit and poignancy. If anyone is curious, he or she can find them in 285, 488, 519, 584, 753, 1029, 112, 1115, 1281, and 14182. I'm not sure what that's, where that, but anyway, lots of information in regards to Saturnalia, apparently. Festivals and holidays he usually celebrated very expensively, but sometimes only with the merriment. In the Saturnalia or at any other time when the fancy took him, he distributed to his company clothes, gold and silver, sometimes coins of all sorts, even of the ancient kings of Rome and of foreign nations, sometimes nothing but towels, sponges, rags. Was like rags is rudabula. Rags has a double meaning. Augustus plays with, because it also means penis, male member, okay, and tweezers, and other things of that kind, with tickets on them, which were enigmatical and had a double meaning. He used likewise to sell by a lot among his guests articles of very unequal value, and pictures with their fronts reversed, and so by the unknown quality of the lot disappoint or gratify the expectation of the purchaser. This sort of traffic went round the whole company, everyone being obliged to buy something and to run the chance of lose or gain with the rest. Okay. Other relevant references can be found in Seneca, Epistles to Lucilius, 18 Pliny epistles, 4:9 or something like that, Servius, Ad Vergilio, Anidam 3:407, Tacitus, Annalus 13:15, Arian Dissertatines, Epictet 1:25, Lucian of Samosata, Saturnalia 4.
Every social class participated in the festival, and the streets were filled with people shouting, Yo Saturnalia, Viva Saturnalia, and offered sacrifices bare-headed friends, exchanged gifts among the humblest. The most common gifts are wax candles, which were probably used like the moccoli or moccolici, are now used on the last night of the Italian carnival. The material value could be low, but their symbolic and religious meaning was obviously very important for the consolidation of society. Candles symbolize the light getting over with the darkness of chaos and announcing a new year, on a new light or new year. So that seems to actually talk about, actually being, related to celebrating of the new year coming in regards of getting more light, right? Catullus also refers to gifts and holiday in his poem. Great gods, what horrid booklet, damnable unto thine own Catullus thou didst send, that ever day by day die he in Saturnalia first at festivals, or whatever. In summary, in the Saturnalia we find elements of our current Christian Christmas and Carnival, the celebrations of the end of the old year and the beginning of the new one. Therefore, time and life regeneration, burly squoo party. Not sure what that is. We might, the mobile might close down. Relating to earthly humor. Okay. Entertainment, whatever. Could we go back again? No. But the mobile might actually end up going down here. Burlesque, okay. Anyway, let's see if we can get it. Burlesque party, uncontrolled environment that remembers the original chaos. Reversal of social order in the family, reversing the roles of masters and slaves for just one day to finally go all again to the established order at the end of the party, when chaos is again a cosmos or organized space. The banquet or dinner, the gift exchange, the customs reversal typical of carnival, the permissiveness to celebrate card games, banned for a long time by more rigid customs. Note for evidence such as Easter, next to the carnivals, card games were allowed for just one day, or they were more tolerant with the card game only that day, piously arguing it was done in memory of the sharing of Jesus' robe by the soldiers who kept him. But this would have been after, right? Anyway. Oh, okay. So they're still celebrating, I guess. After Yeshua, of course. The market with ceramic figurines as a toy gift for children. And in that deepest sense, parties serve or play the important social function of permanently reopen the natural cycles of time and regenerate in annual coincidence the social established order. So, yeah, okay. So, we learned, I guess, a little about Saturnalia, I guess.